Cortez this year is quite different from last year's, and we have been constrained by weather. We have benefited from having the Starlink and really have appreciated that luxury. Before we left Marina Costa Baja near the end of January, Lee constructed a permanent mount for our Starlink, mostly using items we had on board. He utilized a fishing rod holder as a receptacle for the Starlink dish pole and drilled an exit hole in the base of the holder for the power over Ethernet cable. With the addition of set screws to firmly hold the Starlink in place and cross braces to the solar panel arch, the Starlink installation has survived some rough weather. Now, all we have to do is flip a switch to access weather, communicate with loved ones, or enjoy an evening movie. We have noticed occasional brief outages when we are anchored in tight anchorages with sheer walls, which appear to limit a clear view to the sky. We have found that Starlink does create a power draw on our system of approximately 4 to 5 amps, and it is not something we consistently leave on unless we are motoring. I don't think I will ever get over the luxury of being able to message family that we are pulling up the hook or dropping it to let them know that we are safe and sound. There are occasional updates to the firmware. The sleep option from a previous update no longer appears to be available, and with the latest update, the preheat option was marked by default. This, of course, takes extra power, and as we are not in a snow-prone area, is not applicable. And now, looking closely at the installation, I see our shiny stainless of a month and a half ago now has the beginnings of rust spots. I swear I spend more time polishing stainless than I do varnishing. The solar arch, which I polished in November in Guaymas, once again needs polishing and is indicative of the moisture-laden winds and salt spray we have been exposed to. After our retreat from Bahia de los Muertos, we spent several days anchored at Bahia Falsa, waiting out northerly weather. On Carnival Friday, we sailed into the La Paz Channel at low tide. The sandbar bordering the channel was readily apparent, and we dropped the hook at Mogote. Early Saturday morning, we headed into Marina de La Paz to drop garbage and laundry. You can no longer buy a shower at the marina, and we were deeply disappointed. We reprovisioned and in the evening headed back into town to enjoy Carnival. This is one of my favorite times in the La Paz calendar. Sunday morning, Blondie and I did more exploring of the mangroves, and at the turn of the tide, we rode the ebb out of La Paz with a quick stop at the Costa Baja fuel dock to fill a couple jerry jugs before we headed north. It was one of our quickest visits to La Paz, but a strong westerly was predicted in a few days' time, and we needed to get north for shelter. With an exception of a couple of anchorages, the anchorages out at the islands and those around La Paz are open to the west, including Bahia Falsa. The forecast was for 2 nights of fairly settled weather before the westerly was due to arrive. We stopped in at Bahia Machado on Isla Espiritu Santo. While motoring, we had smelled diesel, and Lee discovered an occasional drip of diesel emanating from below the lift pump. There was a sense of disappointment realizing that we would have to return to La Paz if the leak couldn't be dealt with. It was at Empachado that after letting the engine cool, Lee was able to get in and tighten up the fuel line fitting, which appeared to have loosened, probably from vibration. Thank goodness that was an easy fix. Machudo is popular with the daytime tour operators and has a prominent headland called Punta Catedral, or Cathedral Point. Just off the point is the artificial reef and dive site created by the intentional sinking of the Fang Ming. With sunset, the tour groups departed and we had the place to ourselves. During the night, a light westerly sprang up and the anchorage became very uncomfortable. We probably won't spend the night here again. The following day, we moved north past Isla Ballena, or Whale Island, and were lucky enough to find El Cardoncito unoccupied. This is a single boat anchorage on Isla Partida, just north of Caleta Partida, and we had always wanted to try it. We anchored as far in as we dared, in 17 feet of water, knowing that during the night a southwesterly would start arriving and we would be on a lee shore. This inlet is deep enough that we did have protection from the waves and slept comfortably. This was a stop we would have liked to spend more time at. But with the arrival of the west-southwesterly, which was forecast to become stronger throughout the day, Lee put up the sails. The mainsail was already in a reefed position when Lee hoisted it, and it was tempting to shake out the reef in the initial light winds. However, strong wind materialized, gusting into the mid-20s, and we had a fantastic sail to another new location for us to try, a spot that was added to the most recent edition of Sean and Heather's Sea of Cortez cruising guide. The anchorage, Cabeza de Machudo, on the Bahia Peninsula, is an anchorage suitable only for westerlies, and it did indeed fit the bill. It is a periodic fish camp, boasts a long beach for energetic dogs, and long walks. We loved it. This area marks the beginning of the San Jose Channel and the Sierra de la Giganta Range. We made a short hop up to San Evaristo in southwesterly conditions the following day. From San Evaristo, we sampled a few more new anchorages for us in this amazing sea before we arrived at our current location in Puerto Escondido. During the coming week, I will endeavor to edit those videos into a coherent chronicle. So, until next time.